Grace and peace. I'm Brian Muster, the Baptist Campus Minister at Drexel University, and this is Peace and Power Christian Fellowship, the peace of Jesus Christ to change our lives, the power of the Holy Spirit to change our world. And we are continuing our series on obedience in the presence of God, a study in the Old Testament law, looking at the law from the first 5 books, Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And we are on the 3rd video of the 2nd lesson. And we're looking at the 10 Commandments, and specifically looking at, in this video, we'll be looking at the second half, the last 6 of them, and this will be the moral law toward each other. In the first video, we set up the different categories: moral law, ritual law, and consecration law, and now we're looking at the 10 Commandments as the best example of, well, not the best example, but one of the best known examples of the moral law. And let's look at the last 6 of the 10 Commandments. So here we go. Honor your father and your mother so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Just some opening comments on this. Some folks divide it into, instead of 4 and 6, they divide it 5 and 5, because all of the first 5 have something like the Lord your God in their context, and none of the last 5 have. So they see that as a sign of how they should be divided, and they'll divide it 5 and 5. But we've divided it 4 and 6 because the first 4 seem to be about the relationship with God, and the second 6 seem to be about the relationship with each other. So looking at this, the other piece to it, verse 17, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, and you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male and female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. That also has 2 commands in it. That's another place where there's some disagreement about how many commands there are and which are the actual 10 commandments or 10 words. Again, I think I said this in the second video, is there seems to be 12 commands, and different traditions divide those 12 commands and combined some of those commands to form 10 words in different ways. And this is another one of those places where there is debate over whether or not verse 17 is one command with 2 parts to it or 2 separate commands. But if you take it as 2 separate commands, then you need to combine something else somewhere else throughout. So that's just kind of some of the interesting things. But let's look at these 6 commands. Honor your father and mother. Take care of your parents. Take care of those who have taken care of you. Do not murder. Do not destroy someone created in the image of God, is basically what that's talking about. Don't purposely kill someone that is in the image of God. Do not commit adultery. Do not destroy the foundational relationship of marriage, as we see in Genesis 2, how important the relationship between the husband and the wife are. Do not commit adultery. That destroys that. Do not steal. Do not take what God has given to someone else. Do not lie, especially to hurt or for gain. Do not bear false witness. Tell the truth, even when you can benefit from lying. In a court proceedings, we would lie in order to punish somebody we don't like so that we can hurt them, or we would lie in order to protect ourselves so that we can gain for it. So do not lie in order to benefit. And this is also quite often what happens within our own culture. We never lie. Just very few of us, let's say it that way, lie just for the flat out sake of it, just because it's fun. We usually lie to either avoid pain or to gain something from it. We lie for a reason. And that's kind of where this bearing false witness comes. If you're bearing false witness in a court proceedings, you are lying for a reason, either to gain something for yourself or to hurt somebody else. So Don't do that. And then do not desire what is someone else's. Don't covet. And this helps. We're not in competition with each other. We can trust that God will give us what we need, just like God has given others what they need. So don't covet. Coveting is really a statement about trusting God. Looking back over these, number 5, taking care of your parents, is a statement about gratefulness, thanking your parents because God provided them to take you to this point. Number 6, do not murder, is a statement of how you value God and God's image and humanity. And then the other ones, do not commit adultery. You value God's ordained idea for your life. Then stealing, lying, and coveting, all talking about how what God has given you should be enough, should satisfy you, and you don't have to steal someone else's stuff, lie for gain, or covet even the heart in this. And that's, interestingly enough, we've talked about this in the first lesson. The law is a very practical. It's about what you do. And all of these are about what you do, except number 10, which is about what's going on inside of you, which is very, very interesting. So that's the only one of these that is somewhat of a psychological thing, somewhat of a spiritual thing, somewhat of a not what you're doing, but how you think about what you're doing. So just some questions to think about as you think about the 10 Commandments is the Old Testament concept of love means to be committed to act in the best interest of someone else. Again, the Old Testament concept of love is a very, very practical thing. To love someone in the Old Testament means I am committed to act in their best interest. What does honor your father and your mother look like? So if that's the definition of love, then it would be a very, very practical thing. What does stealing, lying, and coveting say about your relationship with God and your trust in God? How does the greatest commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, relate to the 10 Commandments? We'd love to hear your answers in those for those questions below. Drop down in the comments section and reply appropriately. I will respond as needed, and would really love to engage with you in that conversation. As always, there's 3 ways to join the conversation: in person Sunday nights at 5 p.m., live via Zoom Monday nights at 7 p.m., weekly wrap-ups on YouTube and or WordPress. I'm all over the social media: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, WordPress, and YouTube. Like, subscribe, and follow as appropriate on those social media platforms. I always enjoy these conversations. Hopefully they continue real soon.